They had conquered more worlds than most species could count. 347 planets had fallen to their fleets. Some had surrendered without a fight. Others had tried to resist. It never mattered. They always won. High Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Hunger. He was tall, even for his kind. His gray skin stretched tight over a skull that held 3 eyes, all of them fixed on the blue and green world growing larger in the viewing screen. Earth, the natives called it. Such a simple name for such a simple world. "Report," he said. His voice was calm. It was always calm. He had done this many times before. "Scans complete, High Commander," said his second officer. "Population of 8 billion. Technology level is primitive. They have nuclear weapons and basic space travel. Nothing that can threaten our shields." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Category 2, then. Standard harvest protocol." The second officer nodded. 17 dreadnoughts are in position, awaiting your command. Looked at the planet one more time. He could see the lights of cities on the dark side. Billions of creatures down there, living their small lives, thinking their small thoughts. They had no idea what was coming. They never did. "Begin," he said. The 17 dreadnoughts of the Dominion dropped from orbit at exactly 8:42 UTC by Earth's time. Each ship was the size of a small city. Their hulls were black as the void between stars, and their weapons could crack continents. They did not announce themselves. They did not demand surrender. They had learned long ago that fear was more useful than diplomacy. The plasma bombardment began immediately. Shanghai was first. A beam of white-hot energy struck the city center and turned everything within 10 kilometers to ash. The shock wave flattened buildings for 30 kilometers more. 12 million people died in 3 seconds. They did not even have time to scream. Lagos was next, then Mumbai. Then, the dreadnoughts spread across the planet, each one choosing the largest population centers they could find. They did not hate humans. They did not feel anything about them at all. This was simply efficient. Kill the most in the shortest time. Break their will to fight before they could organize. On the bridge of the Eternal Hunger watched the destruction with his 3 unblinking eyes. His crew worked around him, monitoring the attack, tracking human military responses. There were none. The humans were too shocked, too scattered, too primitive to fight back. "Curious," said the second officer. Turned, explain. "There are no communications from their governments, no surrender requests, no military orders. Their networks are silent." "They are in shock," said. "Their minds cannot process what is happening. We have seen this before." "Perhaps," the second officer said, but something in his voice was uncertain. "Ignored it. Doubt was for lesser species." On Earth, the world was ending. People ran through streets filled with smoke and fire. They screamed for help that would not come. They held their children and prayed to gods who did not answer. Television stations went dark one by one as cities fell. The internet collapsed under the weight of 1 billion terrified voices. But not everyone was running. Beneath the Swiss Alps, in a bunker that did not appear on any map, a man named General sat before a console covered in lights. He was 63 years old. He had gray hair and tired eyes and a face that had seen too many secrets. Around him, 20 other people worked at their stations. They were calm. They had been trained for this. "Status," said. "All cities are reporting," a young woman answered. "Geneva online, Moscow online, Beijing online, Washington online, New Delhi online, all stations confirm ready." Nodded slowly. He looked at the main screen which showed the destruction happening above. He watched Shanghai burn. He watched millions die. His hands did not shake. He had known this day would come. They all had. In 1987, a team of scientists in Antarctica had found something buried beneath 3 kilometers of ice. It was a ship, not a human ship, something older, something that had crashed there long before humans had learned to use fire. The governments of the world had kept it secret. They had studied it. They had learned from it, and they had prepared. For 60 years, humanity had known the truth. They were not alone in the universe, and the universe was not friendly. "The aliens are not scanning deep enough," another officer said. "They haven't detected our installations." "They think we're primitives," replied. "Let them think that." On the screens, another city died. Berlin this time, the bright flash of plasma and then nothing but fire. Closed his eyes for just a moment. 23 million dead already. 23 million lives ended in minutes. He had known this was the price. The plan required it. They needed the aliens to commit fully, to bring all their ships into range, to believe they had already won. It still hurt. "How long?" he asked. 12 minutes until all systems are synchronized. 12 more minutes of death. 12 more minutes of letting humanity burn. Opened his eyes and watched the screens. He would carry this weight for the rest of his life, if he survived. In Moscow, similar scenes played out in another secret bunker. In Beijing, officers who had never worked together before now operated as one. In Washington, the president sat in the back of the room, watching, silent. He had given the order hours ago when the ships first appeared on radar. Now there was nothing to do but wait. They continued their attack. They destroyed military bases and communication centers. They burned farmland and forests. They did not understand why the humans were not fighting back. Every other species had tried something: nuclear missiles, chemical weapons, desperate attacks by their primitive spacecraft, but the humans did nothing. High Commander felt the first small touch of unease. It was strange. Wrong. Prey should struggle. Prey should fight. This silence was not the silence of shock. It was the silence of something waiting. "Increase scanning depth," he ordered. "Check for underground facilities." "High Commander." "Do it." The scans began, and deep beneath the Earth's surface, alarms started to sound in bunkers across the planet. "They're looking deeper," someone said in his bunker. "They'll find us in 4 minutes." Smiled, it was not a kind smile. "They only need to find us in 3. On every continent, in bunkers and bases that had been built in secret over 6 decades, final preparations completed. Weapons that should not exist powered up. Targeting systems locked onto the massive ships hanging in Earth's sky. Humanity's response was ready. They had expected sheep. They had found something else entirely. General reached for the console in front of him. His hand hovered over a red button that would change everything. Above, the eternal hunger scans finally penetrated deep enough to detect the network of facilities hidden beneath the planet's surface. His 3 eyes went wide as data flooded his screens. "What is this?" he whispered. It was 9:12 UTC, exactly 30 minutes since the invasion had begun. "For Shanghai," said quietly, "for all of them." He pressed the button. And Earth responded. High Commander had 3 seconds to understand what was happening. 3 seconds between the moment his scanners detected the hidden facilities and the moment the sky split open with fire. It was not enough time. The first projectile hit the dreadnought Void Crusher at nearly 1/3 the speed of light. The ship's shields, designed to stop plasma weapons and nuclear missiles, could not process an attack moving that fast. The projectile was small, barely the size of a human fist. It did not matter. At that velocity, it carried more energy than 1,000 nuclear bombs. The Void Crusher did not explode. It simply stopped existing. One moment there was a city-sized warship hanging over what had been Paris. The next moment there was an expanding cloud of superheated gas and metal fragments. The flash was so bright that it burned the eyes of people watching from 100 kilometers away. Before the light faded, 7 more projectiles found their targets. Watched his tactical display turn red with warnings. Ship after ship vanished from his screens. The World Eater, the Final Silence, the Eternal Dark, names meant to inspire fear, reduced to nothing in heartbeats. "What is hitting us?" he demanded. His calm was gone now. His voice cracked with something he had not felt in centuries: fear. "Unknown projectiles," his weapons officer shouted. "Origin points all across the planet's surface. Speed is. The readings must be wrong. They cannot be moving that fast." But they were. From hidden silos in the Rocky Mountains, from platforms buried beneath the Sahara Desert, from launch facilities under the ocean floor, humanity's secret weapons rose into the sky. They were called hammers. Simple name for simple weapons. Just chunks of ultra-dense metal, wrapped in magnetic fields, accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible. The technology had come from the crashed ship in Antarctica. For 60 years, the best scientists on Earth had studied that wreck. They had learned how to generate power from nothing. They had learned how to bend space itself. And they had learned how to throw rocks really, really hard. 8 dreadnoughts died in the first wave. The remaining 9 tried to respond. Their plasma cannons fired wildly, trying to hit targets they could not track. They hit cities instead. Madrid burned. Sydney burned. Cairo burned. More millions died. But humanity was not finished. The second wave was different. Not kinetic weapons this time, something worse. General watched his screens as the antimatter warheads launched from their orbital platforms. These had been the hardest weapons to build. The crashed alien ship had contained a small amount of antimatter in its engines. It had taken 30 years to figure out how to make more. Another 20 to build enough for weapons. "Impact in 8 seconds, someone said. The antimatter warheads did not need to move fast. They just needed to touch their targets. High Commander saw them coming on his tactical display. Small objects rising from hidden locations on the planet's moon. The moon. The humans had facilities on their moon. How had his scouts missed that? "Emergency jump," he ordered. "All ships, emergency FTL jump. Get us out of here." His helmsman's hands flew across the controls. The FTL drive hummed with power. Space began to bend around the eternal hunger as the ship prepared to escape into faster-than-light travel. Then the humming stopped. "Drive failure," the helmsman said. His voice was empty, dead. "Something is jamming us." From the dark side of Earth's moon, a signal pulsed outward. It was based on another piece of stolen technology, something that disrupted the very fabric of space. No FTL travel was possible within its range. They were trapped. The antimatter warheads reached their first target. The dreadnought Conqueror's pride disappeared in a flash of pure white light. When matter and antimatter met, they destroyed each other completely. Nothing was left, not even ash. More warheads struck home. The dark tide, the endless hunger, the Empire's fist. One by one, the great ships of the Dominion ceased to exist. On the bridge of the eternal hunger, chaos ruled. Officers screamed reports that made no sense. Damage alarms blared from every station. Stood frozen in the center of it all, watching his fleet die. "This is impossible," he whispered. "They were supposed to be primitives." His second officer was trying to organize a counterattack. It was hopeless. Their weapons could not hit targets they could not see. Their shields could not stop attacks that moved too fast to detect. Their FTL drives could not escape a trap they had not known existed. "High Commander," someone called out. "Message from the surface. The humans are broadcasting." Laughed, it was a broken sound. "Put it through. Let me hear what they have to say." The voice that filled the bridge was calm. It belonged to General, though did not know that. "Attention vessels. This is Earth Defense Command. You attacked our world without warning. You killed millions of our people. Now you will face the consequences. Surrender is not an option. We are not interested in prisoners." The message ended. Stared at the speaker as if he could not understand the words. "They do not want surrender," his second officer said quietly. "They mean to kill us all." Another explosion shook the ship. The eternal hunger was the last dreadnought still intact. Its shields were failing. Its weapons were useless. Its crew was dying. thought of all the worlds he had conquered, all the species he had crushed. He had never once imagined that the same would happen to him. Target their population centers, he ordered. It was petty, it was useless, but it was all he had left. Kill as many as we can before we fall. The plasma cannons charged. They aimed at London, one of the few major cities still untouched. They never fired. The final weapon in humanity's arsenal was the simplest. It was just a very large rock, an asteroid that had been quietly moved into Earth orbit decades ago. It was 3 kilometers wide. It had been waiting for this moment. When the electromagnetic launchers pushed it toward the eternal hunger, it moved slowly at first, then faster, then much faster. By the time it reached the dreadnought, it was moving at 15 kilometers per second. High Commander saw it coming. He had just enough time to feel something like respect for the creatures who had beaten him. Clever, he said. Then 3 kilometers of iron and stone hit his ship, and the last of the invasion force became a cloud of dust spreading across Earth's upper atmosphere. The battle had lasted 11 minutes. In bunkers across the planet, humans watched their screens in silence. The alien ships were gone, all of them. 17 city-sized warships reduced to nothing. General sat back in his chair and let out a long breath. Around him, his officers were crying, laughing, hugging each other. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. But could not celebrate, not yet. He thought of the cities that had burned, the millions who had died, the terrible secrets that would now have to be revealed. And he thought of what would come next. They were part of something called the Dominion. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. They would send more ships, more fleets. This was not the end. It was just the beginning. Opened a channel to the other bunkers. His face appeared on screens in Moscow, Beijing, Washington, and a dozen other locations. The immediate threat is neutralized, he said. Begin phase 2. It's time to tell the world the truth. Outside, the sun was rising over a changed planet. Smoke rose from ruined cities. Survivors crawled from the rubble, looking up at skies that were finally empty of threats. They did not know it yet, but nothing would ever be the same. Humanity had won its first battle. Now it had to survive the war. The world learned the truth 3 days after the invasion. Every television channel, every radio station, every internet platform carried the same broadcast. Leaders from 12 nations stood together on a stage built in the ruins of Geneva. Behind them, smoke still rose from burning buildings. In front of them, cameras carried their words to 8 billion people who were still in shock. The American president spoke first. She was a small woman with gray hair and steady eyes. Her voice did not shake. Citizens of Earth, you have seen what happened 3 days ago. You have watched alien ships destroy our cities and kill our people. You have also watched those ships be destroyed by weapons you did not know existed. You deserve to know the truth, all of it. She paused. Somewhere in the crowd, a baby started crying. In 1987, a team of scientists in Antarctica discovered something buried beneath the ice. It was a spacecraft, not from Earth, not from any place in our solar system. It had been there for 50,000 years. The crowd was silent now. Even the baby had stopped crying. On screens around the world, people leaned forward, unable to believe what they were hearing. The governments of the world made a decision. We kept this secret. We studied the craft. We learned from it. And we built weapons to defend ourselves because we knew that if one ship had come to Earth, others might follow. She stepped back, and the Russian president took her place. He was a large man with a rough face and hands that had once worked in factories. We argued with each other for decades, he said. Russia and America, China and the West. We threatened each other with nuclear weapons. We fought proxy wars. We spied on each other's nations. He shook his head slowly. But in one thing we agreed. Humanity must be protected. From the beginning, our scientists worked together in secret. Our militaries shared information. The weapons that saved us were built by all of us together. One by one, the other leaders spoke. The Chinese premier, the Indian prime minister, the leaders of Japan, Brazil, Germany, the United Kingdom. Each one added to the story. Each one revealed secrets that had been kept for generations. The crowd listened, the world listened, and slowly understanding began to replace shock. In a small apartment in Tokyo, a young woman named watched the broadcast with tears running down her face. Her parents had died in the first attack. She had spent 3 days believing that humanity was helpless, that more ships would come, that everyone she loved would die. Now she learned that humanity had fought back, that her government, the governments of the world, had been preparing for this moment for 60 years, that the aliens had been destroyed in 11 minutes. She did not know whether to feel angry about the secrets or grateful for the preparation. She felt both. She suspected everyone else did too. The broadcast continued for 2 hours. The leaders explained everything: the crashed ship, the technology they had learned from it, the weapons they had built, the bunkers and facilities hidden around the world, the installation on the moon. They also explained what came next. The aliens who attacked us were called the American president said, returning to the microphone. They are part of something called the Dominion, which has conquered hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. When their ships do not return, the Dominion will send more. We do not know when. We do not know how many, but they will come. She looked directly into the camera. Her eyes seemed to find every person watching. We won this battle. We will win the next one and the one after that, but only if we work together. The old divisions must end. The old hatreds must be put aside. We are not Americans or Russians or Chinese anymore. We are humans, and we have a universe to face. The broadcast ended. For a long moment there was silence. Then slowly something began to change. In cities around the world, people who had been fighting over food and water stopped. They looked at each other. They saw not strangers but fellow survivors, fellow humans. In New York, a crowd gathered in Times Square. Someone had set up speakers to play the broadcast. When it ended, a man started clapping. Others joined in. Soon thousands of people were cheering, crying, holding each other. In Beijing, similar scenes played out. In Moscow, in Lagos, and in the ruins of Mumbai. It was not perfect. There were still fights. There was still fear and anger and grief. But something had shifted in the human spirit. An old tribalism was dying. Something new was being born. General watched the world's reaction from his bunker. He had not slept in 3 days. His eyes were red and his hands shook with exhaustion. But he could not rest. There was too much to do. A young officer approached him with a tablet. "Sir, the response is better than we expected. Civil unrest is minimal. People are actually cooperating." Nodded slowly. Facing extinction has a way of clearing the mind. "What happens now, sir?" Turned to look at a map on the wall. It showed Earth, surrounded by markers indicating defense platforms, lunar installations, and orbiting weapons. "Now we prepare. We have maybe a year before the Dominion realizes their fleet is gone. Maybe 2 if we're lucky. We need to double our orbital defenses, triple our weapons production, start training a real space military." He paused, thinking of something else, something that had been bothering him since the battle ended. "We also need to send a message." The officer looked confused. "A message, sir?" "The Dominion is not the only power in the galaxy. The crashed ship we found was not from the Dominion. Someone else was out there 50,000 years ago. Maybe they're still out there. Maybe they're watching." Sat down heavily in his chair. "We need to let everyone know what happened here. Let them know that humanity is not easy prey. Let them know that attacking Earth has consequences." 1 week later, the message went out. It was broadcast on every frequency humanity could reach. It was encoded in mathematics, in light, in radio waves. It was repeated 1,000,000 times. sent in every direction, a signal expanding outward at the speed of light. The message was simple. It began with coordinates, not to Earth, but to a specific point in space where 17 alien warships had been reduced to dust. It continued with images of the battle, compressed and encoded. It ended with words, translated into mathematical symbols that any intelligent species could decode. This is Earth. We are humanity. We did not start this war, but we finished it in 30 minutes. Your Dominion sent 17 warships. None returned. We are not a harvest world. We are not prey. Come in peace and we will welcome you. Come in war and we will destroy you. There is no third option. The message spread outward through the void. It would take years to reach the nearest stars, decades to reach the edges of the galaxy, but it was a beginning. On Earth, humanity got to work. Factories that had built cars now built spacecraft. Universities that had trained doctors now trained soldiers. Scientists who had worked on computers now worked on weapons. The old world was dead. The attack had killed it as surely as it had killed 23 million people. But from the ashes, something stronger was rising. In every nation, volunteers lined up to join the New Earth Defense Force. They were young and old, rich and poor, from every country and every background. They had seen their world burn. They had watched aliens try to harvest them like crops. They would not let it happen again. General stood on a platform overlooking one of the first training camps. Thousands of recruits stood in formation below him. Behind them, the skeleton of a new warship rose toward the sky. "You are the first," he told them. "The first soldiers of a united Earth, the first defenders of our species. You will train harder than any soldiers before you. You will learn to fight in space on other worlds, against enemies we cannot yet imagine." He paused, looking out at their young faces. "The Dominion will return. When they do, we will be ready. And when they fall, we will not stop. We will go to their worlds. We will free the species they have conquered. We will make sure that no one ever again threatens the people of Earth." The recruits cheered. Their voices echoed across the camp, a sound of hope and defiance. Above them, the stars waited. And somewhere out there, in the dark spaces between galaxies, something ancient and powerful received humanity's message. It began to pay attention. 1 year passed, then 2, then 5. Earth transformed. The scars of the invasion healed slowly. New cities rose where old ones had burned. Monuments were built to honor the 23 million who had died, and everywhere humanity prepared for war. The United Earth Defense Initiative became the largest organization in human history. Its shipyards circled the planet in a ring of steel and fire. Its training facilities covered entire continents. Its research labs pushed the boundaries of what science could achieve. Commander Sarah stood on the bridge of the UEDI Retribution, humanity's first true warship. It was beautiful in a deadly way. 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that combined human engineering with alien technology, had helped design it. Now she would command it. "All systems report ready, Commander," her first officer said. "The fleet awaits your orders." Looked at the... Around her ship, 43 other warships hung in formation. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers filled with fighter craft. 5 years ago, humanity had not possessed a single spacecraft capable of leaving Earth orbit. Now they had an armada. "Take us out," she said. "Formation Delta, we're going hunting." The fleet moved as one, sliding through space toward the outer edge of the solar system. Their destination was a point beyond Pluto, where deep space sensors had detected unusual activity. The Dominion had finally sent someone to investigate. In the 5 years since the invasion, humanity had not been idle. Scientists had decoded the data retrieved from the destroyed ships. They had learned about the Dominion, a collection of species that had conquered a vast section of the galaxy. They had learned about its structure, its weaknesses, and its enemies. Most importantly, they had learned that humanity's message had been received. The signal had reached thousands of worlds. Species that had never heard of Earth suddenly knew its name. Some were terrified, some were curious, some saw opportunity. The Dominion saw a threat. "Contact ahead," the sensor officer reported. 3 vessels, Dominion configuration. They match the Scout-class profiles in our database. Nodded, scouts. The Dominion was being careful. After losing 17 dreadnoughts, they were not taking chances. "Hail them," she ordered. The communication officer opened a channel. For a long moment there was silence. Then a voice crackled through the speakers. It was harsh, clicking, translated by computers into broken English. "Human vessels, you will surrender. Your world will face judgment for crimes against the Dominion." Smiled, it was not a kind smile. "This is Commander Sarah of the United Earth Defense Initiative. You are in human space. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. This is not a negotiation." The Dominion commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "You are 44 ships against 3. Perhaps you think those are good odds. They are not. Our scout vessels are worth 10 of your primitive craft each." "I know," said. "That's why I only brought 44. I didn't want it to be too unfair." She cut the channel. "All ships weapons free. Do not let them escape. The Dominion does not get to send reports home." The battle lasted 4 minutes. The Dominion scouts were fast and well armed. They managed to destroy 3 human destroyers before they fell, but human weapons had improved in 5 years. The kinetic accelerators were faster now, more accurate. The antimatter warheads were more powerful. The human ships moved with a coordination that spoke of endless training and absolute discipline. When it was over, 3 Dominion scouts drifted dead in space. Their hulls were broken. Their crews were gone. The only evidence of their mission would be the debris. Watched the remains of the enemy ships on her screen. Somewhere out there, the Dominion was waiting for these scouts to report back. They would wait a long time. "Salvage teams begin recovery operations," she ordered. "I want every piece of technology, every computer core, every scrap of data they were carrying. Then we destroy what's left." "Yes, Commander." The human fleet went to work. They had done this 3 times before. 3 Dominion scout groups had entered the solar system in the past 2 years. None had left. But knew this could not continue forever. Eventually, the Dominion would stop sending scouts. They would send a battle fleet. And when they did, humanity would need to be ready. On Earth, that preparation continued day and night. In a research facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. studied data from the latest salvage operation. She had joined the Defense Initiative 4 years ago, driven by the deaths of her parents in the first attack. Now she led one of its most important projects. "The Dominion uses a standardized faster-than-light system," she explained to the gathered generals and scientists. "Every ship, every station, every communication relay depends on the same basic technology." She pulled up a diagram on the screen. "We've been working on a virus, not a biological virus, a technological one. It targets their FTL system specifically. If we can deploy it in the right place, we can shut down their entire network." General, now head of all Earth defenses, leaned forward. His hair was white now, his face more lined than ever, but his eyes were still sharp. "How do we deploy it?" "That's the problem," admitted. "We need to get it into their central network hub. That means someone has to carry it there physically." "A suicide mission." "Probably, sir. I'm not recommending this lightly. But if we can blind the Dominion, cut off their communications and their ability to move forces quickly, we change the entire strategic situation." Was quiet for a long moment. He thought of all the people who had died already, all the people who would die if the Dominion sent its full strength against Earth. Millions, billions maybe. "Continue development," he said finally. "Find me a way to deploy it. When the time comes, there will be no shortage of volunteers." Nodded. She did not say that she intended to be one of those volunteers. Some things did not need to be spoken aloud. Months passed, the virus was completed, a delivery system was designed, a special operations team was trained, everything was ready. Then, on a quiet Tuesday morning, humanity's long-range sensors detected something emerging from FTL at the edge of the solar system. It was not a scout fleet. It was not even a battle fleet. It was an armada. 342 warships, dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, support vessels, more firepower than humanity had ever seen gathered in one place, enough to reduce Earth to a lifeless rock. Alarms blared across the planet, ships launched from orbital platforms, weapons systems activated, soldiers ran to their stations. But before the human fleet could even form up, something unexpected happened. A message came through. People of Earth, we are not the Dominion. Aboard the Retribution, stared at her communications officer. What? The signal, Commander, it's not using Dominion codes, it's something different, and it's asking for peaceful contact. His mind raced. 300 ships. If this was a trick, humanity was finished. But if it was real, open a channel, she ordered. Let's hear what they have to say. A face appeared on the screen. It was not human. It had too many eyes and its skin was a pale blue, but somehow its expression seemed almost friendly. Commander, we have watched your species from the moment your message reached our worlds. We are the collective of free peoples, former subjects of the Dominion. We rebelled when we saw what you did to their fleet. The alien paused, and what might have been a smile crossed its strange face. We are here because of you, because you showed us that the Dominion could be beaten, because you gave us hope. Felt something she had not felt in years, something that went beyond the endless preparation for war. Why are you here now? She asked. What do you want? The Dominion is coming. They have assembled the largest fleet in their history, 5,000 ships aimed at your world. They mean to make an example of you. 5,000 ships. The number hit like a physical blow. But, the alien continued, they will not face you alone. We have come to fight beside you, to repay the debt we owe to the species that showed us how to be free. Behind the lead ship, 300 other vessels moved into formation. Saw designs from a dozen different species, each one a victim of the Dominion, each one now standing with humanity. She opened a channel to Earth. General's face appeared on her secondary screen. General, we have allies. Looked at the fleet on his own display. Slowly, a smile spread across his weathered face. Well, he said, tell them welcome to the neighborhood. Humanity was no longer alone. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the Dominion fleet approached, unaware that the rules of the game had changed. The final battle was coming. The Dominion fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like a wave of darkness rolling across the stars. 5,000 warships, including 200 dreadnoughts, each one twice the size of the vessels that had attacked Earth 6 years ago. At their center flew the flagship of Supreme Commander, or a monster of a ship called the Absolute End. Or stood on his bridge, all 4 of his arms clasped behind his back. He had spent 3 years planning this assault, 3 years gathering ships from every corner of the Dominion, 3 years preparing to teach the galaxy what happened to species that their masters. Status report, he commanded. All vessels in formation, weapons charged, FTL systems ready for immediate retreat if needed. Or made a sound of disgust. There will be no retreat. We will crush these humans and anyone foolish enough to stand with them. Then we will burn their world to ash, every man, woman, and child. Their species will be a warning to others for 1,000 years. His tactical officer hesitated. Supreme Commander, our scouts have not reported in. We do not know what defenses the humans have prepared. It does not matter. No defense can stop 5,000 ships. They could have twice our number and it would not save them. He pointed at the small yellow star on the. Somewhere around that star, the human waited. All ships advance. Battle Formation Alpha, today we end this. The Dominion fleet moved forward. On every ship, weapons powered up, soldiers prepared for combat, officers themselves for the slaughter to come. They did not expect what happened next. Commander Sarah watched the enemy approach from the bridge of the Retribution. Around her, the combined fleet of humanity and the Free Peoples waited in the shadow of Mars. 450 warships, not nearly enough against 5,000. But numbers were not everything. Signal from the Allies' commander, her communications officer, reported. They're in position, waiting for your order. Nodded. She had spent the past 3 days coordinating with the alien commanders. The plan was simple. Simple plans worked best when everything was about to go wrong. Open a channel to General. His face appeared on screen. He was in the central command bunker on Earth, coordinating the planetary defenses. Commander, it's time. It's time. Is Doctor ready? Standing by. She's aboard the stealth ship with her team. They'll launch as soon as the battle begins. Took a deep breath. So many pieces had to fall into place. So many people were about to die, but there was no other choice. Understood. Beginning the operation, Earth out. She cut the channel and turned to face her crew. They looked back at her with steady eyes. They had trained for this moment. They were ready. All ships, this is Commander. Execute Operation Last Stand, for Earth, for humanity, for everyone who died in the first attack. The human fleet surged forward. Behind them, the ships of the Free Peoples followed, 450 vessels racing toward 5,000. Or watched them come. For a moment he almost felt respect. They knew they could not win. They came anyway. There was a word for that in his language. It translated roughly as beautiful stupidity. They attack, his second officer said, surprised. They should be running. Humans do not run. That is what makes them dangerous, and that is why we must destroy them completely. Or raised one arm. All ships engage. The two fleets met in a storm of fire and death. Human kinetic weapons slammed into Dominion shields. Alien plasma cannons burned through human hulls. Ships died on both sides, but the Dominion had numbers. For every ship they lost, they destroyed 3 human vessels. Watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. It was going exactly as expected, which meant they were losing. Retribution hard to starboard. All weapons target that dreadnought. Her ship spun, avoiding a stream of plasma fire. Its weapons spoke, and a Dominion dreadnought's shields flickered under the assault. But more enemy ships were closing in. Too many. Commander, we've lost the destroyer Avalon. The carrier Unity is taking heavy damage. Hold the line, just a few more minutes. Because somewhere in the chaos of battle, a small stealth ship was slipping through the Dominion formation unnoticed. Doctor sat in the cramped cockpit of the stealth ship, watching the battle rage around her. Her hands gripped the console, knuckles white. The pilot beside her flew with impossible skill, weaving between explosions and weapons fire. Almost there, the pilot muttered. The flagship is just ahead. Looked at the absolute end looming before them. It was enormous, a mountain of metal and weapons. Somewhere inside that ship was the Dominion's central communication hub. If she could reach it, if she could upload the virus, the entire enemy fleet would be crippled. Get me inside, she said. That's all I need. The pilot nodded. He aimed for a small gap in the flagship's defenses, a maintenance port that's team had identified from captured scout data. The stealth ship slipped through, landing in a cargo bay deep within the Dominion vessel. Grabbed her weapon and the device containing the virus. Around her, 5 soldiers prepared to follow her. Let's go, we don't have much time. They moved through the ship like ghosts. Dominion soldiers ran past them, focused on the battle outside. No one expected an enemy team inside their flagship. By the time they realized their mistake, it would be too late. The communication hub was 3 decks up. They killed the guards quietly and made their way inside. Stared at the alien technology before her. Screens covered the walls, displaying data she could not read. Cables ran everywhere, connecting to systems she did not understand. But she did not need to understand it. She just needed to break it. "Cover me," she ordered. She pulled out the virus device and began looking for a connection point. Behind her, she heard gunfire. Alarms started to sound. "They know we're here," one of the soldiers shouted. "Hostiles incoming." "Just give me 30 seconds. 20 seconds. The device connected. Fingers flew across her interface, initiating the upload. 10 seconds, more gunfire, someone screamed. She did not look back. 5 seconds, the progress bar crawled forward, 90%, 95, 99. "Done," she gasped. At that exact moment, something slammed into her shoulder. She fell, pain exploding through her body. A Dominion soldier stood in the doorway, weapon raised for a killing shot. The soldier's head exploded as one of her teammates fired. Then hands were pulling her up, dragging her back toward the ship. "The virus is uploaded," she managed to say. "It's working." And it was. On the bridge of the absolute end, or watched in horror as his tactical displays flickered and died. All around him, officers reported the same thing. Communications lost. FTL drives offline. Weapons systems rebooting. "What is happening?" he roared. "Unknown, Supreme Commander, some kind of virus. It's spreading through all our systems." The battle outside had changed. The Dominion ships, suddenly blind and deaf, began to drift out of formation. They could no longer coordinate. They could no longer call for reinforcements. They could not even run. And humanity was not finished. Saw the enemy fleet falling into chaos. She opened a channel to all ships. "All vessels, this is Commander. The Dominion is blind. Now we finish them. Target their dreadnoughts first. Show no mercy. They showed none to us." The combined fleet of humans and free peoples pressed their attack. Without coordination, the Dominion ships fell one by one. Dreadnoughts that should have been invincible became helpless targets. Smaller ships fled in random directions, easy prey for hunting groups. On Earth, General watched the impossible happening. The Dominion armada was dying. "Casualties?" he asked quietly. "Heavy on our side, but theirs are worse, much worse." Nodded, he thought of everyone who had died. The 23 million in the first attack. The soldiers lost in a dozen battles since, whose life signs had gone silent minutes ago. It was too high a price, but they had paid it, and now the Dominion would pay as well. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, fewer than 800 Dominion ships remained, scattered and running in all directions. The human and free people's fleet had lost nearly 200 vessels, but the Dominion armada was destroyed. Supreme Commander or did not survive. His flagship was boarded by human marines who fought their way to his bridge. When they found him, he was alone, staring at screens that showed only static. "You cannot win," he said as they surrounded him. "The Dominion is infinite. We will send more fleets. We will crush you eventually." The Marine commander, a woman named, looked at him with cold eyes. "Maybe, but not today, and not tomorrow. And every day you don't crush us, more worlds will rise up. More species will fight back. You're not going to lose one battle, Commander. You're going to lose everything." Or said nothing. There was nothing to say. In the years that followed, humanity led an alliance that spread across the galaxy. The Dominion fractured, then crumbled, then fell. World after world was freed. Species that had known only slavery learned what freedom meant. On Earth, monuments were built to those who had fallen. His name was carved in stone alongside the millions of others who had given their lives. General, who died peacefully 3 years after the final battle, was buried with full honors. Commander became admiral, then retired to teach at the Earth Defense Academy. She often told her students the same thing. We were not the strongest, we were definitely not the most advanced. But when the universe came for us, we refused to die. We fought back. We found allies. We won. She would pause then, looking out at the young faces before her. That is what it means to be human. We do not surrender. We do not give up. And when someone threatens our home, we make them regret it. The students would nod, understanding. They were the children of a united Earth, born into a galaxy that knew humanity's name. A galaxy that had learned, in the hardest way possible, what happened when you underestimated the people of a small blue world. They had expected sheep. They had found wolves. And the wolves had won.